Yeah, the thing is, I want to get the reason I couldn't give you much of a intro to what was going on was because I wanted to get your genuine reaction as you're watching it here.
Okay.
Recording in progress.
All right, all set to record. Okay, okay. So, Professor Amora, thank you so much again for joining me and taking some time on this Friday morning. It's always nice to connect with you again, and I'm so excited for what you're able to offer. And it just proves like who you are as a professor. You just continue giving to your students, and I just love that about you, man. Thank you so much. Could you just state for me your name?
Absolutely. My name is Roberto Jamora.
Okay. Could you spell that for me so I don't make any silly mistakes?
Absolutely. That's Roberto, and then the last name is Jamora.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, could you tell our viewers about what you do for a living and what you studied to get to where you are today?
Absolutely. I'm a visual artist. I'm a painter, mostly a painter. I do a little bit of sculpture, a little bit of design here and there. And I'm assistant professor of art foundations at VCU, Virginia Commonwealth University School of the Arts. And how I got there, kind of in terms of my education, is I studied painting and printmaking at Virginia Commonwealth University. After transferring there from Rutgers University, thinking I wanted to study film, but then I ended up really liking painting in the art foundation program. Then I moved to New York, and then got my Master of Fine Arts in Visual Arts from the State University of New York at Purchase, and worked in various positions within the art world, ranging from gallery and nonprofit art handling to um, higher ed administration, and now as a professor at VCU.
Wonderful. I mean, my next question is, what relationship, if any, do you have with the arts? And I think, I think you've answered that as well. I mean, so why don't you tell us a bit about your personal relationship with the arts, if I may?
Absolutely. I'm a working artist, so I show my abstract paintings with galleries and museums. I've been doing some commissioned works for different institutions, including William and Mary, um, and also the Virginia Museum of Contemporary Art. So I work in abstraction that deals a lot with composition and color as it relates to memory and people and place, specifically skin tones and landscapes, from specific parts of my life, but also specific locations like the Philippines and different parts of like my family's diaspora. And I also work with the Filipino and Asian American community at around Virginia, doing commissioned works like making textiles for commencement stoles and stuff like that.
Ah, yes.
And then making um, edition prints. So I do a lot of silkscreen printing, and I just finished up this piece that celebrates Filipino businesses and places of worship and nightlife, cultural centers, and of Filipino folks in the Hampton Roads area of Virginia. So that's opening next week at Virginia Museum of Contemporary Art.
Nice. Congrats. Yeah, love your work, Professor Hamora. I mean, shout out to your Instagram. Can I shout out your Instagram?
Oh,
That's
absolutely,
at
please.
Roberto Hamora, as spelled previously RobertoJamora. Definitely check out this work. I mean, too much to say now. And that's for another interview, I hope, yeah. Um, but that brings me to our next question. How do we know each other, Professor Hamora?
Absolutely, yeah, Kristen, you were in my surface research class in the fall 2021. Yeah,
Yes.
last fall, which was so awesome to work with you. I feel like if for those who don't know what service research is, like we have like kind of very, I wouldn't say funny names, but we have different names for our classes at VCU Arts. Service research is like our 2D art fundamentals class where we deal with design fundamentals,
Right.
color, composition, and that sort of thing. Yeah, it was great meeting you in that class. I feel like even though it was a fully online class and you were in Italy the whole time, which was awesome. I feel like you still took advantage of all the offerings at the university and were very active in the community. I feel like I bought that your collaboration with the Afghan student organization, I believe,
Yeah.
that that I purchased and I put up in my office. I'm just like, yeah, I felt like your presence was very much felt at VCU Arts, despite your being like thousands of miles away.
Right. I mean, I was feeling so lucky that I could still get so involved at a distance. I was worried, we all wanted to go back to normality, and so as much as I could have gotten involved, I mean, yeah, I'm glad VCU had the resources to do that. You know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No.
So, great. I think this is a great transition into the performance. So, how much are you aware of performance art? How much do you do performance art yourself? Could you just tell us a bit about your relationship with performance?
Absolutely. I think actually what got me into like 2D visual art was actually works of performance art when I was in high school. Um, Very big. I mean, I mentioned this previously, but very big part of the Filipino community growing up in Virginia Beach. There's just so many Filipinos around, and one of the ways that we were kind of mobilized politically and um, became like kind of community organizers and activists was through the arts. So we used, like, my high school had this Filipino student organization, and we used to do like spoken word and theater performances for the school and the community about Filipino American history, and so we used to do, and I used to be part of a breakdance crew and stuff like that. I
Oh,
still
yeah, I
breakdance a
remember
little.
this.
So I mean, it's like not necessarily like art school performance art, but at the I was involved in like the theater program at my high school.
Yeah,
So
I was just talking with my last guest about the difference between art school performance art and, I mean, because it's a wide umbrella. So, uh, there's something different between the two, isn't there? There's some kind of boundary that you cross to become art school performance art.
indeed, yeah, I feel like it's like there's great things about music that comes out of music school, but then there's awesome things about punk rock that was made by kind of musicians who aren't maybe technically like advanced, but like maybe have just like this kind of raw emotion and visceral uh, treatment of the material, which would be like the musical instruments and that sort of thing. So they're all valid. It's just like
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I'm so curious about these how we define these things. Yeah. Okay, so without further ado, please feel free to go ahead and pick up where we left off in the performance art. And really, like I said, I'm just asking for your genuine thoughts, your genuine reactions, your feelings, and in layman's terms, your analysis of what's going on, a very formal analysis. And then, of course, I'm open to any questions or insight you may have along the way.
absolutely. So I guess I'll go ahead and play.
Oh, and I think it should be said that this was made in the Time Studio class.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. Professor Hamor, could I ask you if you have headphones by chance?
Oh yeah, give me 1 second.
Perfect. Thank you.
No problem. Sure. Sometimes the microphone gets weird
With the headphones.
yeah. So double check to make sure the sounds good.
Yeah, testing 1, 2.
All right. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, hear you great.
Okay. Awesome.
Thanks.
All right. So there we go. We got the video playing here. No, it's interesting. The video, I think, very smart very smart performance. I feel like the interactivity is so kind of omnipresent in how we use technology nowadays. I feel like technology is very aware of how the user, the actions of the user, physical actions in the decision making process, rather than just the user coming up to information and assessing it. And it's interesting in the context also. I think what's obvious in the earlier part of the pandemic. So I feel like that kind of distance that is seems to be like a big part of the project. Looking at like
I'm sorry to interrupt. I think I'm hearing the dissonance in the mic now. It's like chopping you up a bit. I'm understanding you wholly, but it's just a bit. I mean, it's fine, but I don't know if you have any other headphones by chance.
Yeah, let me see if I just mute this sound.
Yeah, otherwise, yeah, you know what? The entire video has subtitles, and really the only audio is just ambience. So it's really,
Okay.
I mean, it wouldn't matter if you muted it and just read the subtitles as you go.
Okay, cool. Awesome.
Yeah, this is much better. I can hear you clearer.
Awesome.
Thank you.
No problem. All right, so I guess we'll just start over that part because you can edit this, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of editing.
All right, let me start the video over again. Yeah. All right. Okay. Okay. Cool. So, yeah, I think it's a really smart performance. I think about kind of technology and how the user kind of is asked to make decisions and to interact with the content or the subject matter. It's interesting because your role in the performance is kind of like this medium between, and I guess like it's kind of, it seems to be almost a comment of like the artist and society in a way, like the artist is like the medium, kind of synthesizing the world into a canvas, and but thinking about like the agency of the viewer as well, since the viewer is able to kind of engage in the creative process as well. So yeah, I mean, I haven't seen what the end result is, so I'm excited to see what the painting is in the end.
Yeah.
And then I mentioned before, I feel like how important it is that it's also during the pandemic, the earlier part of the pandemic, where social distancing was very important to keep the virus at bay, and but still like thinking about the agency of everybody and how the need to create is still there, and how like thinking about like problem solving in a time of pandemic and social distancing. I think it's a fascinating performance here, and it's cool. Like some folks like kind of walk around it, the performance, and then watching the part of the video where it's like a child is helping you make the painting.
Yeah,
That's cool.
a lot of kids and a lot of parents that push their kids to participate, but they themselves don't, which is interesting.
Indeed. Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like it's interesting how you function as a performer in this piece. I think about how this relates to other things that we experience as a society. Thinking about like the metaverse and like the artist is like kind of a surrogate, or just like how that is such a how social media kind of identities become like these extensions of all of us, but not like, but there's still this kind of removal of kind of the real in terms of the subject of who is kind of working within that realm. So like,
right.
We're all kind of performing somehow on social media and on technology, and even within art, we still have our own languages and things that we want to be seen, and then there's things that we don't want to be seen. So it's interesting to think of the artist as like a medium in that sense.
Right. So one thing that we're talking about in visual communications now is um, our innate um, habit. Sorry, my words are not coming to me now. Um, so basically we show our influence that society has on us in our work, in our day-to-day lives, without the ability to change that. Like, that's something that's innate to us as humans. And I found it an interesting topic to talk about in this project about influence. Uh, as much as I took a back seat, there are some things that I innately had to choose, right? So the color of the paint, the paintbrush, where the location is. These are things that I could influence. Nonetheless, being in this vulnerable state and inviting people to interact with me. There's this weird dynamic between how much you can influence what you're doing, and how much others and how others influence you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's important to think about. I think about like knowledge in general and how we attain it. There's like the intellectual formation of knowledge, but then there's like the embodied formation of knowledge that we attain through doing things physically. So our bodies remembering certain things because of like the everyday kind of
Yeah,
actions that
muscle
we
memory. Yeah.
take. And yeah, totally.
Wow, that's
It's
interesting.
interesting how influence can come in that form, like folks, maybe moving your hands around on the canvas in ways that are unexpected to you, but also you're having to make certain decisions. There's kind of it's like those types of knowledge are kind of can come together in a lot of ways in terms of like how we are influenced by others. I feel like a lot of times our parents influence us in ways that we don't realize until we're much older.
Yes.
Uh, Professors can introduce course material that is really interesting, and then we can very immediately add that into our artwork. So it's interesting to think about like the forms that influence comes in.
Yes, I was just talking about with my previous guest about how parents influence us, and she said, if you really want to get to know someone, you need to get to know their parents. That's how you get to the bottom of someone's subconscious, so to speak. Um, and I wanted to ask you, what do you think this performance says about control? I mean, we talked about the social distancing, and those crutches are measured at a meter. So, what do you think? Some people grab them just at the end, at the meter, and others. There was one that grabbed just at my elbow, to get that to get that closeness. What do you think it says about control?
That's interesting. Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about that. I guess because yeah, that's a really important thing to think about. Like, where does the viewer find like like to what degree does the viewer find certain actions like acceptable? Um, so yeah, in terms of control, I think I think a lot about the internet and kind of this. And I feel like I'm looking at your performance in the context of like things like the metaverse and stuff like that,
YouTube.
and surrogate and stuff like that. YouTube, yeah, and it's interesting to think about like um, morality and how like I don't know, like everyone's morality on the internet seems to become either obvious or there becomes a range. I think of what we can see very clearly in this performance, like what seems acceptable to people and what um, is less acceptable. Like how close folks want to get. It's like you are following. It's interesting to think about it in terms of like the pandemic as well. So you mentioned that the stick is exactly a meter long, which was like the policy at the time for social distancing, and some people would very much obey that, and others would not. So, and I feel like that was kind of also I feel like that was a topic of conversation throughout a lot of the pandemic. Are people to what degree are people following these policies
Mm.
guidelines? So that's an interesting kind of detail in this performance. When we get over, not get over, but after we consider like the obvious kind of points of interest in this performance, I think that seems to me like one of the unexpected sources of the content that we reflect on afterward.
Right?
But yeah.
There's so much more to unpack that we learn through performance. That's what I love about performance.
And do these folks, they know they're getting recorded?
Yes.
Nice, cool. It's always interesting as well when folks are getting recorded.
Well,
Foucault talked about
yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah.
There were some people that walked by and totally didn't see the camera. In fact, I think there are some scenes where people just stand right in front of it and look around, and others where as soon as they like realize, oh, I'm on camera, and they're like, okay, I gotta go, gotta get out of here,
Yeah. Totally. Oh, I'm looking at the painting now. This turned out really good. Nice. I like the two kind of major types of line weights. This gestural tinted violet, and these black thin lines here.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. But yeah, I feel like when folks they are aware they're being recorded, I feel like they said they self-regulate their behavior, and then when folks aren't, they kind of do what feels immediate.
Yeah, that's interesting. That was the first time this has come up in conversation. Yeah.
Indeed, and there's a Foucault essay about it, and I forget the title of it. I'll just Google it real fast.
Foucault.
Yeah. It's called the panopticon effect. So you might want to take a look at that. It's an interesting concept.
Absolutely.
About not being watched.
That's so true, and I'm sure. Is it a recent work? Does it touch on social media?
It was written. I have the book somewhere. It's in the book. Discipline and Punish.
Discipline and Punish.
Yeah. So basically, the idea of the panopticon is Foucault, this philosopher, was talking about, was writing about how in this type of prison, it's a panopticon is like when there's a watchtower in the center of the prison, but the prisoners can't see if and who is watching them, but they know that there's the potential for being watched constantly. So as a result, sometimes the watchtower is empty, but because of its presence in the space, it causes the prisoners to self-regulate their behavior.
Yeah.
And then we can take that into that idea in society, especially in social media now, how we all kind of change our behavior based on if we're posting content on the web and so forth, or just being watched, because there's surveillance kind of everywhere.
Right. Wow, that is interesting. I'll have to give that a read. So I did just get a notification from Zoom that this will end in 10 minutes.
Okay.
So I'll try to bring us to a close now, but I thought this was a good segue. Thank you for that link. Go ahead and open that before I lose it. Okay. So that was an interesting segue because I want to end this coming back to you. How much to you is art making about the study of human behavior?
Oh yeah, that's a really interesting question, and a really I feel like the study of human behavior, for me, like my work, although it's abstraction and not super representational, I think my work specifically is meant to be received in a number of ways formally. I want the work to look interesting, but I think if I want folks who want to read more into it to realize that there's humanity within the work, that the colors that I choose are based on the skin tones of people I love, landscapes from places like the places where my parents immigrated from. So I feel like the study of how did you phrase that?
How much of your art involves the study of human behavior?
Totally, human behavior. Absolutely. Yeah, totally. I feel like the study of human behavior in my work, how it's a part of it is I feel like my work, I try to challenge how people view color. I think we all have our kind of biases about what color means in society and in painting and in visual art. And I want people to see specifically like certain colors of brown for as being like beautiful, as being active in the space of a painting. And so I think a lot about in terms of like human nature, humanity. I think a lot about composition. I think a lot about how I am leading the viewer's eyes around, almost like a designer. But
Right.
I'm also thinking about issues of race and ethnicity, and thinking about what it feels like to sometimes even to like appeal to the divine. I feel like there's a lot of references in my work that deal with like 19th century American landscape painting, but also kind of the how like when there's a gradient that looks like this almost like super romantic landscape. I feel like that to me, I feel like we can all kind of relate to just enjoying and like loving the earth and like loving the skin that we're in. I feel like to me, there's a lot of love in the work. And
Sounds
there's a
like
lot.
sounds like it has a lot to do with human relation. That's beautiful. I mean, art is so specific to us as humans. So I asked this question because I'm like, um, how much can we separate our humanness from our creativity? It is essential to us, I believe. And anyway, I think that lives through you and your work, and of course through many influential artists. So we have about 6 minutes left, and I just have one last question for you. And in the realm of influence, I'm curious, Professor Jamora, who is someone who has greatly influenced your life, your work, so be it?
Yeah, that's such a big question. Because I feel like mentorship. I realized at a young age, how important it is to have strong mentors to show you things, to expose you to expose you to just new forms of knowledge and creative praxis. It's such a tough question. I feel
It
like
is.
to
I threw that on you.
let me think about this for just 1 second.
Yeah, take your time.
Yeah, because there's so many. I feel like I owe so much of my life to like mentors of mine in the past.
You know, one interesting thing someone said is like, I can't sum it up to a person, but he is a history minor, and he said his history influenced me. So in a way, he kind of accumulated all of the human experience into one. So, I mean, answer it how you feel most comfortable.
Absolutely. Let me think.
Feel free to get creative.
Yeah. Well, I feel like when I was in high school, I think about where my kind of my real like love, and when I started to like kind of dedicate my life to creativity, it was definitely through my high school teacher, who was the sponsor for our Filipino club, and we're talking, this is only 20 years from now. I mean, I was in high school from 2001 2005, but my sociology and my sociology teacher, who's a fellow Filipino, Ray Obispo, introduced me to Filipino hip hop,
Hey,
poetry,
shout out. Yeah.
and so that's kind of how I really began to like love just being a creative, like being in the world, before I really started caring about like painting and drawing and stuff like that. So I feel like it's because I was introduced to writing, I was introduced to graphic design. He was also the sponsor for our literary art magazine at my high school, that I was learning how to do like Photoshop in high school. So I feel like it was through all these other, it was through the introduction to like Filipino theater, writing, literature, through graphic design in high school, that the Ray Obispo, I feel like really kind of opened a lot of doors for me as a person, a lot of intellectual curiosity. That I feel like I'm not totally sure who I'd be without that influence. Like, at a young age, because I felt like my parents didn't really know anything about those sort of things. So it would have been like, had I not had certain mentorship, I don't think I would have. I'm not sure if I would have pursued art as a career.
Right.
So
Wonderful. Oh man, Professor Homura, thank you so much for sharing that. Is there anything else you'd like to say as a takeaway of today before we end our meeting? 2 minutes.
I just want to say thank you for having me on here, Kristen. I feel like it's been such a pleasure to work with you. Last year, it was so great to be able to walk around the Venice Biennale with you.
Oh my gosh.
And please keep making art. You're so talented, and I share your work with my students, and they're always like, "Oh my god, what's such
No
amazing
way.
work." I know.
Shout out to your students.
Oh yeah, totally.
All right. Okay, so I'm gonna stop the recording now. Thank you again so much.
No problem. I hope that was
Recording
it.
stopped.
Okay.
If you need to like reach out, if like if I messed up a question, we need to redo something.